demo for your product on white. So first I'm going to edit it in Lightroom, do my color correction, crop it, etc. So here's my picture. I'm going to go to develop. I'm going to crop it to an 8x10. And you can see it's really crooked. So I'm going to grab my angle tool and I'm going to click and hold and find a line I can straighten. And then you need it to fill up most of the frame. Okay, and you can tell it's underexposed. So I'm gonna first fix my white balance. Make sure it is on. I am going to bring my whites up, making sure I don't clip out any little details. And I'm going to bring my blacks down. So I'm just making sure so I brought my shadows up so I can see the product better. And then we're making the background's gonna go away. So I'm just watching these. And if I see this is not losing any important detail. It's just the highlight. I need my drink to be bright. Again, we're getting rid of the background, so don't worry about the background at all. I'm just worried about the little highlights in my product. I could turn up clarity a teeny. Okay, so once I did color correction, I fixed the exposure. On this one, I masked this and then did the bottle. So on this one, I used a mask so I could edit this separately from the bottle so I can make it bigger, or I can make it brighter. Okay, so I edited this in Lightroom. Now I'm gonna right click, edit in Adobe Photoshop. I wanna edit a copy with the Lightroom adjustments. And it should open it in Photoshop for me. So this is the one I already did. So you are going to remove the product from the background, add a solid color layer, add a shadow, so you remove the background and then I create my own shadow, and then I also am going to sharpen it and clone stamp anything out that needs to go away. Okay, so here's my product. I first am gonna select the product and put it on a new background. So I want my object selection tool and I just click on it and it should find it. But I'm gonna make sure I select in mask. You can change, I like mine on a color, I can change the color, whatever I want. And I'm gonna turn up the opacity so I can really see the edges, and it looks like it did a pretty good job, except like right here is a little strange. So I'm gonna smooth out my selection. I could shift the edge in if I wanted to. Nope, wrong way, I'm gonna minus. So you are basically playing with these sliders however you need to get your edges to look good. And I think this is not showing you the preview because I'm making a video and have both applications open. My computer's having a hard time. I'm gonna close Lightroom. Okay, and then I'm gonna put it on a new layer, hit OK. So I got rid of my background. Then I'm gonna do adjustment layer, half white, half black circle, solid color. Make sure you pick the very top corner, so it's 250, 250, 250, so it's a bright white. And then I'm gonna put it underneath. And then before I start work, I'm gonna need to spot heal or clone stamp. I'm gonna use the fixing tools next. So I'm gonna zoom in a lot, Command plus, and you see all these little things need to go away. So first I'm gonna try just healing brush tool because it's pretty easy. I'm gonna make sure it's on content aware. I'm gonna make sure sample all layers is on, and I'm gonna make sure my hardness is at 0. And I'm gonna use my bracket key to make it smaller. So I could also use clone stamp or a variety of other options, but I need to get rid of all of the little imperfections that are in here. And I'm not going to do this entire thing on the video because that would take forever and you would be really bored. But I'm also going to show you how to use Patch Tool. So this is Patch Tool, and I want to pick it on Source. So you basically just select something you want to get rid of and then move it over, and it's going to fill it in. So if I wanted to get rid of like all of these highlights right here, I could select them, find an area that's a similar color, which might be harder than it sounds. So that looked bad. I'm going to Command Z. Let's maybe try and do the whole section. So it's supposed to kind of be like a giant clone stamp, but easier to use. But you need to make the area look good. Maybe like this right here too. This looks funny. So it's basically like a giant clone stamp that's slightly easier to use. So I could use it on all of them. I like spot healing. You have to deselect every time. So you want to get rid of all of the little imperfections that are in your product. So make sure you are fixing them. Then I'm going to make a shadow on a new layer. So underneath, I'm going to hit the new layer button next to the trash can. I'm going to put it underneath the layer. I'm going to use my elliptical marquee tool. I'm going to make, that is a bad shadow. Let's try that again.
Oh.
I'm gonna make a circle. I'm gonna go to my brush tool. I'm gonna paint it black. And then I'm gonna turn the opacity down so that it looks like a realistic shadow. Then I'm gonna deselect it, and I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. And anything that, as long as it looks realistic, it is fine. So maybe something around there. I'm gonna hit OK. And now that is looking fake. So I can move it, I can Command T and adjust it however I want to. But the point is that you are making a realistic looking shadow. I think I need to turn the opacity up more. It's too dark, too light. Making a realistic looking shadow. Okay, and then I'm gonna do a very light sharpening layer. It's called an unsharp mask, which is kind of counterintuitive, but that's what we wanna do. So I'm gonna make sure I'm on my background copy layer, the new product, and I'm going to Filter, Sharpen, Unsharp Mask. And so I put a link here. I can never remember what all the little things do, but you basically, you can see the amount, radius. So the amount slider increases the contrast between pixels. The radius slider determines the number of pixels that will affect the sharpening, like next to each other. So more obvious the sharpening, the greater the radius. So that's not, you don't want to bring it too high. And then how different the sharpened pixels are from the surrounding pixels. So I'm gonna click on it and it's gonna give me a preview. So if I turn up the radius, it goes really sharp, so that's clearly fake and like doesn't look great. So I just don't want to really bring my threshold up too much. That's not looking great, but it's giving you a preview of how it looks. Somewhere around there. It just kind of cleans up the difference between things. And then I think I did all of the things. So I removed the background, added a plain solid color background. I created a shadow. I fixed it. I sharpened it. And then just FYI on the shadows, if you can use whatever like selection tool, like a draw, you can do any selection tool for the whatever size or like shape your shadow needs to be depending upon the product. And then I'm going to file save. I'm going to file save as a copy and make it a JPEG. It won't let me because it is currently still saving back to Lightroom. So file, save as a copy. I'm gonna make it sure it's a JPEG. And this is going back into my Lightroom folder, which I will never be able to find. So make sure you put it on your desktop. Save it. Make it on high. And then you also need to screenshot this to put on your slides. And that is it. Happy editing.